Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. We are on part 5 of the High Bridge Disc Golf Course Trail at Memorial Park in Eldora, Iowa. This video has 21 fairies using 17 photos, and I still have 32 photos left to go. How many of those will have fairies is hard to say because they were more scenic photos, not close-up ones, so we will find out. And if there are no fairies or any to note or share with you, I will move on to a different location. Otherwise, you'll get a part 6. Before we get started, grab that magic wand and zap the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider supporting this channel by clicking on the link in the description box below. Oh, and while you're down in that description box, check out the other link that's there. I'm starting something new. I'd love you to be a part of it, so see if it's of interest to you. All right, here we go. The fairy in this photo stood out for me, though I think he thought he would be hidden if he stepped into a curled leaf. I don't think he had time to curl himself enough, as we can see his head with black hair, an ear, both eyes, his nose, his mouth, and what looks like his shirt collar, which is black. He is looking at me as I take his photo. We have here a woman fairy sitting amongst the leaves. She is wearing a scarf, possibly a dark brown shawl, and a dress or skirt that goes below her knee. We can see her facial profile, but her facial features are unclear. She is holding something, perhaps a plate of food, a piece of food such as a seed or nut, or maybe it is a bit of cloth and she is sewing something. This is anyone's guess, but she is definitely focused on what she is holding. This fairy is sitting on the edge of the steps that I am descending as I take this photo. She has blended parts of her body to appear like bits of leaf, but she did not do this with her head. She has short grayish hair, and we can see her eyes, her nose, and her mouth. She appears to be holding something, and the way she is looking at it, my guess is that it is something living, like a baby or a pet friend. We can see both of her arms, her dress or skirt, and one foot. My husband and Sammy, our Chihuahua, passed by this fairy only moments before I took this photo. We have a little fairy up against the tree. We can see he is wearing a hat, and we can see his face, which is flesh-colored. Though his face is blurred, we can still see 2 eyes, a nose, and at least the upper lip of his mouth. The lower part is hidden by the stick. I can't be positive, but it looks like he might be holding on to the intersection of that branch. It looks like 2 curled fingers there. They definitely know how to blend. I can't see this one's body in the darkness. Believe it or not, I nearly missed this fairy. Once I saw him, I couldn't believe I didn't see him right away. He has, however, blended himself almost perfectly with the tree. His hair, which goes up in a point, is just like the tree bark, but what gave it away was that his hair bark is just a bit off from the direction of the bark on the tree. I've lightened the cropped photo above just a bit for you. His eyes and nose are unmistakable too. He is looking sideways at me, obviously trying not to move. This little fairy very nearly fooled me by pulling a leaf around her head, but when I zoomed out, she took form. We can see her face with both eyes, a nose, and a part of her mouth. A branch is covering the other part. We see her arm, which is pulling the leaf down, and we can see feet beneath the leaf that is covering up much of her body. So clever. I am sorry that I am unable to make this photo any larger or clearer, but this fairy is so small, if I tried, it would be much more blurry. In the cropped and enlarged photo above, we can see this fairy's head with hair, and we can see one eye and his nose on his face. He has one arm extended and appears to be holding a stick. One of his wings is also easily seen. His wing may have been moving when I took the photo, as it appears a bit more blurred than the rest of him, but I can't say for sure. We really can't miss this fairy, though it looks like he was trying to squeeze himself into the tree. We can see his pointed hat, both eyes, his nose, and his chin. He is wearing a dark coat with a collar, and we can see one arm and hand. I almost think I see a boot beneath his hand, as though he pulled his legs up and is crouched, but I don't know for sure. He could also be standing with his legs hidden by leaves. We have another head, and this one stood out because it is completely gray. This made it stand out as there is nothing in the surroundings that is this color of gray. I believe this fairy is female, and she could be an elemental. We can see her eyes, nose, mouth, and hair as she looks straight toward me. She looks very mysterious and quite expressionless. Fascinating. We appear to have a very excited tree being here. He is either laughing or yelling with his mouth wide open. If you look closely, you can see teeth on the top and bottom of his mouth. We can also see an eye, nose, and ear. He has used small branches to form his arms and body. Of course, this may not be a tree being. It could be a being of a different species who has used the tree for a quick blending to avoid being seen by me as I stop to take this picture. Sometimes Mother Nature has a wonderful sense of humor. I had to share this photo as Halloween is tomorrow when this video is scheduled to release, and this branch looks like something out of Frankenstein. It is an arm that has been broken and turned around on the elbow section, and the fingers are just like fingers. It's a creepy Mother Nature Halloween prop that I just had to put in this video. Happy Halloween! We have a light-formed fairy here. In the cropped and enlarged photo above, this fairy appears to be quite disjointed. This is due to using the sunlight to show himself. In the picture to the left, he is much less disjointed looking as he walks along in the grass. His head is turned and he appears to be talking to someone or smiling at someone he is passing by. We see his head with dark hair on top, an ear, and some facial features like his eyes and mouth. We can also see two arms, though one is already morphing out of shape as the light changes. Light beings are incredible. I have cropped, enlarged, and lightened this fairy for you in the photo above. He did a wonderful job blending in with the tree with his dark clothing, so I did not see him right away. We can see his pointed hat, his face with long beard, and both hands. We can also see his foot as he steps up onto the leaf in front of him and his hand on the tree trunk to give extra support as he does so. He appears to be wearing a long cloak with wide, billowy type sleeves. We have two fairies here, a male and a female. The male is leaning up against the tree. We can see his tall hat, his hair, and his face. He is wearing a brown jacket of which most is covered with leaves. The female fairy is facing the male. We can see her in profile. His hat makes her look quite short in comparison. She appears to be wearing a scarf on her head. Her nose is just above his right shoulder. Her arm is out to the side with a wide sleeve, and the base of her shirt is made of leaves pointing downward. This fairy was a nice surprise in this photo, as it is often difficult to find fairies in photos with really tall grass. She has blended herself beautifully with the leaves, but she still stood out. We can see her bangs, her hair in back, and her ear. We see her face in profile with an eye, a nose, and a round cheek. She is wearing what looks like a cape with fringed tiers. It looks like she was bending down to either try to get out of sight or to look at something. We can see just the tip of one of her pointy-toed shoes. Okay, I know these above photos are blurry. The photo was taken for more of a scenic view than for fairies, but I always look just in case. They were so close together in the photo that I decided to put them together. In the first photo, we can see a fairy with a hat, full facial features, arms crossed, legs and feet standing between two trees. He went green, assuming he wouldn't be seen. The second photo reminds me of a troll or wishnik doll with feety pajamas by the side of the tree. It looks like I photographed him in mid-step. We see his face full on, though quite blurred. Also, one arm and the rest of his body. I'm not sure if what I have labeled hair is actually hair or not, but it is different in color than the ground behind him. This is a cute little one. We can see the face full on, though the mouth is not clear in this photo. We see hair, the upper portion of the body, which includes an arm and a hand. It almost looks like this little fairy is crossing its arms. I believe it may be sitting down on something also, as the leg looks bent at the knee behind the branch. What a solemn little one this is. The fairy in this photo was so tiny, so it might be difficult for you to see even in the cropped and enlarged photo above. It looks like a girl fairy with a small pointed hat. We can see her face with one eye, her nose, and we can also see her little chubby belly, one arm, and the upper portion of her legs. If you are having a hard time, go back and forth from the photo on the left and the one above. This might help in seeing her. So tiny and so cute. It appears we have a fairy here who is a fan of the 60s. He would have fit right in at Woodstock. He has somewhat wild orangish hair with some down on the side of his head and some in a bun on top of his head. He is wearing sunglasses and has a goatee of the same orangish color as his hair. We can also see one arm, but that is all we can see of this fairy's body. He might be scoping out the location, so if he finds it safe, he'll bring forth the rest of himself from wherever he is coming from.